Good evening. Welcome to the Reloading Podcast here on the Firearms Radio Network. Tonight, we'd like to take time to thank Sean and everyone over at the Firearms Radio Network for giving us this fine area to hang out in. And we'd like to take time to thank Jake and Ryan over at Patriot Patch Company just for the fact that not only do they make awesome patches, but they're the bandwidth sponsor of this fine program. Now, one disclaimer.
Mike needs to learn to talk first.
Fine is relative, so.
I have a caveat. You need to learn to speak.
You should get that checked out at the doctor.
Mike needs to learn to speak first.
Talk real good.
Exactly. I actually understood that.
Yeah, I was going to say you should be used to that now.
I am.
So, how's everybody doing? Don't all speak.
Great.
Jim sounds scruffy.
As usual.
He's been fighting with his wife all day, so.
Well, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Travis, how are you doing?
Good. How are you doing, Mike?
I'm doing better than some, worse than others.
Jason, how are you doing?
Fair to middling.
Hey,
Phil, how are you doing?
This is the most awkward introduction we've ever done. How about we do something traditional, like talk about what we did in reloading?
Well, we're asking how everybody's doing.
Hello and welcome to the Reloading Podcast.
We genuinely want to know how you're doing, Phil.
I was doing a lot better before.
Okay, that's great. Thanks, Phil.
That's more like it. Cut him off. Jesus.
All right. See, y'all started this when I said, how's everybody? And nobody answered. So,
Doing good.
not my fault.
On with the show.
Without group participation, this doesn't go well. People do not want to hear me talk the whole entire damn time. I guarantee it. So, what's everybody done in reloading and firearms and fun stuff?
I'll go first. Mine's real quick. Nothing. I haven't lifted a finger. I've wound up driving to Florida over the holiday weekend and back.
Why?
Because my wife asked me to take her down.
Good reason.
Travis, you're shaking your head. You go ahead.
Oh, I did quite a bit. So I've been off for a couple days. So I cast up probably 2,000 projectiles, powder coated them. I actually ran my Dillon and filled up almost half of a 5-gallon bucket full of 9mm.
Wow.
You guys saw the picture. It was a good feeling.
Mm-hmm.
Today I bought some 9mm dies that were on sale at Sportsman's Warehouse.
Just cause?
Just because they were on sale. I'm a sucker for sales. So speaking of sales, I seen Palmetto State Armory was getting rid of a lot of their RCBS. Basically anything RCBS related, they were selling for ridiculously cheap. I mean, they're selling dies for $2-3. So I perused all their 1,150 dies they had and picked out a whole bunch of stuff that I wanted. I also ordered a whole bunch of parts to start building my automated pneumatic bullet sizing machine.
Interesting.
I also been watching a lot of YouTube videos on PID controllers for like your lead pots. So I ordered all the parts for that. So I'm gonna turn one of my Lee pots and hook up a PID controller to it.
So what's a PID controller?
It's electrically, basically an easy way of saying it. It's just a controller for your, so like your Lee pot has just numbers, a dial.
Okay.
So a PID controller, you can actually, it's a digital display and it controls, it takes over the heating element, and you can digitally set exactly what temperature you want it at. And the PID will keep your lead pot within those parameters of exactly where you set it. So if you look at like I have the Lyman 25, whatever that new pot is, the Lyman 25 something or other. It has a PID controller right in the front of it.
Okay.
So it's pretty cool. You should check out some videos if you guys haven't seen that before, but it's really easy. It looks really easy to build, and there's loads of bacon, Elvis ammo, and Johnny's reloading bench go into great detail on how to wire one up and buy all the parts off Amazon. So like I say, that's all coming in the mail, and it looks like was the end of my fun stuff I've done.
Sounds like lots of fun.
Yeah. What did you do, Jason?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Ate some turkey, and that was about it.
Yeah, I got a call Black Friday from a gun store telling me about the 338 Lapua that was on sale for $14.99.99. I just can't do it right now. I got too many things coming up I got to be prepared for.
You should have just bought it so you could have just rubbed it in Phil's face.
You mean
That would have made it worth just putting it on the credit card, Jason.
I thought long and hard. The thing that stops me the most is the $2,500 scope that I'm going to have to buy to put on it.
That'd make a $4,000 gun.
Travis, I hope that friggin' that Autobot or whatever you got bolted to your 1050, twist that thing into a pretzel. Just so
So, Dougie Fresh, I have a question. Why are you asking me if I'm using butter to lube the casings?
I was going to leave
because
that
I got
one
a butter
alone.
dish here. I can't believe it's not butter. So no, I'm not using butter.
Is butter even legal where you live these days?
No, it's not. Weed's legal though.
Can you use that as bullet lube? I mean, why not?
I don't know. I'm
Give it a
sure I could
try.
get some hemp oil or something. It's all good.
Oh, Jesus Christ, we're going down the wrong path.
So speaking of that, I think somebody's trying to kill off vegans, because we had romaine, and now we've got some veggie mixes out there that are being recalled. So yeah, I think somebody's trying to kill off the vegans.
I'm heartbroken.
I know, just terrible. The
Mike, what did you do? Because I know I'm thinking you did something pretty interesting.
I don't know. I played around, loaded up some shot shells a little bit. I haven't gotten out the 366 yet because I didn't have time with everything else going on. But I did wander over to PSA today. That would be Palmetto State Armory. And well, lo and behold, they have the M&P law enforcement turn-in on sale for a whopping $279.
Good on you.
Is that with free shipping?
Yes. Yes. it is.
Oh, that's a good deal. Oh man.
Yeah. The only drawback for some people is it's
It's a 40.
yeah, it's a 40 Smith & Wesson, but I happen to really like that caliber.
Well, I see Jim. He's looking right now. He's buying 2 of them. Look at him.
But
Cool,
the
Will.
bonus about M&Ps is like Glocks. All you got to do is drop in a barrel and away you go. So Somebody did mention earlier that 9 doesn't fit in 40 megs very well. And I responded that it doesn't matter because I'm not going to carry it with 9. So, yeah, you can throw 9 in the 40 megs and it'll work well enough at the range to have fun.
Yeah. Mike, I think I had an XDM one time in 40. And
Yeah.
I could have swear on those mags it says 40/9mm. I might be
Could be.
wrong.
It's Springfield though, so I mean, they tend
Yeah,
to.
but
It's optional, I guess. Whatever you can
Yeah.
put down the barrel.
but I've got some CZ mags that are the same way. Same magazine for 9mm and 40 cal.
Yeah.
I mean, it's literally marked with the on the witness holes on one side for 9mm and on the other side for 40. And the capacities are different, obviously.
Nice.
But it's got to be the same magazine because it's marked that way.
Yeah. It depends on the mag, how the mags are designed. So, and how the follower is designed.
Mm-hmm.
Some mags you can get away with that, some you can't. So, like the SR mags, I've heard that you can load 9 in it, but the same thing, it doesn't necessarily always feed exactly nicely. So,
I could see that.
but when I get it, I'll let you know. Because amazingly enough, I have some 9 laying around here and I have some 40 laying around here. I'll see how the 9 loads in the mags. And if not, well, I'm pretty sure I can probably find them in PMag somewhere for reasonable. So,
I guess I did do something. In Guns Reloading.
I was going to say, yeah, you did.
You carry.
Yeah, well, I discovered a new friend about 6 doors away, and he told me that I moved into the safest neighborhood in the United States of America. There's at least 30 veterans within 1 mile of my house.
There you go.
Veterans, retirees, and we're all heavily armed.
Hallelujah.
And he's promised to take me shooting where he goes. He's been here for a while. It's just a problem getting established. The second thing I've realized I did was I made some important decisions about our residential future. Let me just leave it that way. So in other words, what I'm saying is I'm going to build a bench about the size of Phil's bench. I'm not going to build the big wall bench that I had before. It was 14 feet long.
I'll tell you what, that bench that I've got, I mean, it's about, 4.5 feet across?
Mm-hmm. About 5 feet, yeah.
Yeah, I can't remember off the top of my head. But, I mean, I tell everybody, I think that's a good size bench to start with.
Yeah, I'm not starting out, but
No.
even so, the bench I've got is hardwood maple.
Oh, that's too damn pretty to use.
Well, it's what it's what it was bought for. It's a woodworking bench. Is what it actually is.
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
But when I get the garage clear, I'm going to put that up, bolt it to the wall, and that'll be it.
So, Jim, I missed last week's episode. Did you talk about the swaging stuff you did?
No.
Nope. No talk of swaging.
Ask
So
your
you
question,
did
Travis.
that. Well, that's another thing you did.
I didn't do it recently.
Oh,
My stuff is in storage right now. Storage here at the
Oh.
house.
yeah, that video you shared. I thought that was something you just.
Oh
you just
no,
barely
that
did on-
that was you're talking about where I was casting. I was only in that group. In the chat group we have. I wanted to make sure I had a duplicate copy of the video that YouTube deleted.
Yeah, I'd like to go into that with you sometime because that's a kind of an interest of mine.
Well, we could make that a show topic.
Yeah, that'd be good.
Not tonight, though. Your friend is supposed to be coming.
I hope so.
Hmm.
YouTube deleted one of your videos, Jim?
Yes, Jason. Where I was casting bullet cores. You used the word bullet in the title, and it was casting bullet cores. It wasn't even casting bullets, just cores.
Right.
And YouTube told me it was against their terms of service.
Not surprised.
And I have a few very rude things that I simply won't put on the air. to say about you, what YouTube can do.
Understood.
Well, Jim,
Didn't
that
I hear?
exactly what you're talking about is why when our guest comes on, and speak of the
Just
devil,
showed up.
that is exactly why he created what he did. But I'll let him talk about that.
Thank you. Well, looks like he's signing in.
Oh, sorry. Sorry I'm late, you guys. I really apologize about that.
Oh, no worries.
It's bacon.
Bacon, 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 bacon.
Yeah, I sure appreciate you guys having me on. I've been a longtime fan of the podcast, so I have to admit I only catch it on YouTube. I don't actually catch it as a podcast, but have enjoyed the show. I first became aware of it when you guys had Elvis Ammo on several months ago.
Oh, okay. Yeah, he was fun to have on. So
Yeah,
we're gonna have him on
he's-
here again in the near future.
I hope so. He's kind of MIA.
Yeah, he's been busy with some other stuff. So, but
So everybody, this is Loads of Bacon. So Bacon, we were just talking, Jim was just talking about he got one of his videos deleted off of YouTube.
Jim did. Yeah, I've had 3 myself. I can name about right now I'm aware of about 30 different videos related to firearms or casting or reloading that have been deleted in the last month and a half.
Well, that's kind of leads into, we were just talking about that, like Phil said, or Travis said. The thing is, it's my understanding you're creating a reloading network and where we can host videos like that, perhaps.
Similar. How much time do I have to talk about that? You want the 30
Oh,
second version?
you have an hour and a half to 2 hours. Go right ahead.
Yeah, be careful. I'll take 3. Apologies for folks that aren't aware. I kind of want subscribers to my channel, and so I never show my face.
we should do that, Mike.
So the podcast is probably a good environment for me.
there we go.
So Bacon, what is the Reloaders Network and who is it for?
Well, it has morphed over time. So it started at one place and ended up another. So I'll back up a little bit in history there. Right at the end of last January or early February, we started getting a bunch of guys together on I guess you call it a chat program called Slack. We still use that. Folks were talking on Facebook, on Twitter, on YouTube. The YouTube used to have the private message system, and it was archaic and had issues. And so to try to bring a bunch of these guys together, we jumped onto this program called Slack. And we realized...
You're referring to reloading.slack.com.
I am. And we didn't have a name for it when we started out. And it became apparent we needed something better than, hey, come join us at this random Slack thing. So pulled the guys there, and we ended up with, throughout the group, coming up with the name of the Reloaders Network. That was in February, maybe early March of this year, of 2018. A few weeks later, YouTube came out with their revised policies on firearms content and left the whole reloading world saying, we don't know if we have a future tomorrow. As folks started looking at other places to host their content, whether that was, everyone says use Full30, well, their doors aren't open. But we started looking at, a number of different hosting sites. We realized pretty quick, users weren't going to follow these content creators to 14 different sites every single day. So that's where we came up with the Reloaders Network. It's one site where you can go, and it doesn't matter if the author's content is hosted at YouTube or YouTube or Gunstreamer or Dailymotion or Vimeo or a whole host of other places. They all get shown there at the Reloaders Network. So we don't actually host any video content on our own servers. They're hosted at a number of these other places, but it doesn't really matter where it's hosted. You can go to the reloadersnetwork.com and you can see those videos no matter what the source is. And we've got guys now that are writing articles and doing stuff other than video as well.
So is it safe to say the Reloaders Network is a place for people to go, and it's kind of a community? People can go post videos, talk amongst themselves, each other about just anything to do with bullets, casting, reloading, shooting.
Absolutely, absolutely. Now, the name ended up being the Reloaders Network, but there's a lot of reloading, but there's a lot of bullet casting content. There's firearms content, shooting sports. We got folks posting content there that are not reloaders.
Yeah, I see you got some real heavy hitters over there. You got Elvis Ammo, Fortune Cookie, Full Lead Taco, Johnny's Reloading Bench. He's one of my favorites. Of course, there's Loads of Bacon, TATV Canada. We're over there. I think this will be the first episode that we post on the Reloaders Network.
Yeah, we've got, I think, about 60 different people that have raised their hand and said, I want to post content there. One of the guys that has a great channel, Buffalo's Outdoors, he's a reloader, but none of his videos have to do with reloading, but he has great firearms content. Kentucky Ballistics is another guy. Doesn't have a reloading channel, but has a firearms channel. And so, I guess that anybody that puts a fresh round into a firearm, we'll call that a reloader.
Got to reload a firearm every time you shoot it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Now, I will say we don't tend to do a whole lot of political conversation there, which several have said they appreciate. There's some great political sites, great places to have those conversations. Not opposed to politics at all, but that's not really our forte. I guess you could kind of think of it as like an online magazine of sorts. It's a firearms reloading, bullet casting, shooting sports magazine, not a political magazine.
Right. Yeah.
Sounds familiar to me.
Yep.
Jason, you ought to know about that. You've been around the reloading room for a while. By the way, Loads of Bacon, in real life, I don't want to know your name I know you're not going to tell me, but are you aware of the reloading room on Facebook, and are you a member?
First name's James. It's a weird name, I know.
I wouldn't know who anyone like that.
And I'm aware of the reloading room on Facebook. I spend very little time on Facebook.
Good enough.
It's not there's some great people on there. I've got 6 kids, all under the age of 10.
Oh my goodness.
Oh.
I've got a full-time job. I'm running the Reloaders Network.
You've got enough on your plate.
I'm a Christian, and so I do some things involved in ministry.
Awesome.
I don't have time for Facebook. It's a great resource for those that are using it.
Better and better. What about buying and selling over there on the Reloaders Network?
So
it's become a pretty good issue, as you know, buying and selling ammunition per se.
So the best place to do that sort of thing is within Slack. If you go to the Reloaders Network, there's in the menu, there's a thing called chat. You go to that, you can get into Slack, and you can have private conversations with people. You can have group conversations. I will say that Slack takes a little bit of getting used to for folks that haven't used it before, but it's a really robust tool. And there's an area on there for buying and selling things. Now, I will tell you, I haven't seen anyone do anything suspect. And the advice I give to folks that are interested in that is keep it legal.
Yep.
Now there is some stuff that the Reloaders Network selling, right? Some of those fire hydrant shotgun slug molds from Russia and the wads and.
This is true. We have
like
started selling some. We started picking up some of the Russian bullet or slug casting molds and some of their wads. Also starting to sell some merchandise, so things like T-shirts and coffee mugs, and that's available as well to any of the authors that are on there that want to sell things as well. there's a number of ways that that can be handled, and those doors have been opened up to say, hey, if you're interested in offering your viewers your shirts, your mugs, your patches, whatever it is, let me know and we'll sort out the logistics of it.
Bacon, we might have to talk after the show.
Absolutely.
So before you jumped on, we were talking about what we've done in the shooting world. Have you been up to anything lately?
Lately I've been playing with round balls. I can see some people in the side chat here, and I know where they're going with that. I'm talking about casting round balls
Thank you.
to load into right. Well, I cast up round balls to load in my 45 Colt, into my 44 Magnum and Special. I've got a triple aught buck mold, which happens to cast a 360 round ball. So I'm going to be loading that in 38 Special and 357 Magnum. I'm also going to try that in 9mm and 380. And for those revolver rounds, I'm going to be trying those as duplex loads as well, single and duplex. So I've got them all cast. I've got them powder coated, and I just went and shot my first round of single and duplex test loads in 44 Special.
Tell
So
me more about
Bacon.
your duplex loads.
Yeah.
So I noticed I could fit 2 in a case, and so I said, why not? Now, for 44, those round balls come out to about 120 grains each. So 2 is 240. I figured 240 grains of lead in a 44, that sounds just about right. And actually with the very little bearing surface on a round ball, my standard deviation on the single ball loads was not very good. You can't really get a good crimp, but I got some pretty good standard deviation and extreme spread numbers for the duplex loads. At about 7 yards, I was getting about 1.5 inches, 2 inch spread.
It's interesting because the video that YouTube deleted, I believe, I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure I was casting triplex bullet cores. Basically about a 50 grains each, 57, 56 grains, 52 grains each, whatever it was, to add up to 158 grain. And it was just coincidental that I was casting triplex bullets cores to be swaged down into triple bullets, triple wad cutters. Well, wad cutters with a semi-wad cutter nose.
Yeah. That's just, and I know some folks are going to say why, and my response to that is why not? Sounds like fun. That's my motivation for most of what I do with reloading is why not?
My motivation was simple. I just wanted to see if I could do it. I did shoot quite a few of those. Now, the only thing is, the catch is, those were pure lead bullets. So you could do the same thing with gas checks and half jackets.
Yeah, why not?
Exactly. It's just coincidental. That's all. But please continue.
Well, I've never reloaded shotgun at all, but I have this triple aught buck mold now. So in the future, I'm going to be loading up some triple aught buck in 410, and I just picked up about a 40-year-old Lee Lodahl Jr. press for about $10.
Nice.
So I'm going to have to start playing with some Russian slugs and some triple aught buck and 12 gauge as well. Again, because I can.
Yeah, I haven't seen any videos lately. Have you played around with those Russian slug molds?
I have not. Got some in, and there's some folks that really wanted to, so I've sold them all off. I have another shipment coming in. I'm expecting in about 3 weeks, probably.
Okay.
But I've got enough things on my laundry list of projects to get to that I probably won't play with those Russian slugs anytime soon. Fortune Cookie has got some videos on those. Thorzax has got some videos on those. TATV Canada has got some videos on those. And I'm sure now that we're selling some that I'm hoping we'll start to see some other folks with videos on those as well.
Yeah, I'd like to get my hands on one of them. But yeah, Fortune Cookie, he's leading the way on testing and stuff on those Russian slugs.
And I think Thorzak's got him. I think he mailed him some and got him addicted to him.
Oh yeah, you're right. He did. Yep. So for anybody out there who's interested in powder coating, Loads of Bacon and Fortune Cookie and those guys, they've kind of really changed the way people look at powder coating. And I know I've learned a lot. And the Reloaders Network is a great resource if you're interested in learning how to powder coat your projectiles.
Now, from some of I haven't caught every episode of the podcast, but I know Jim is a caster, but I believe it's still just traditional lube, right, Jim?
No, not at all. I use tumble lube. I quit casting or quit sizing and lubricating a couple decades ago.
Yeah, I've got a Lyman 4500, and I have no issues with it, but
I gave mine away.
Yeah, I sold mine too after powder coating.
So I've been powder coating for about 3 years ago, but a couple months ago, I pan lubed for the first time.
And did you use real bacon?
I absolutely did.
I thought so.
I made that lube. It was half bacon grease and half beeswax. And
I thought we weren't going to make this show political.
Those were the best smelling 44 Magnums you've ever come across. I'll tell you.
I would bet they did smell good when you fired them. I'm quite serious.
They smelled great until I shot them. Once I shot them, it just smelled like the the grease that drips down into your barbecue. That's what it smelled like.
Ew. That's funny. For real, half and half?
Yep. Now I ran the bacon grease through a filter a time or two to get any meat particles out, and then I boiled it in water for a while, and then let it cool and scraped it off to try to pull any salt out of that.
Yeah.
Then I got real daring, and one of the guns I shot it in, I didn't clean it right away. I let it sit, no problems at all.
Now, boiling it in water would cause the salt to stay with the water.
And then I got real curious if that, if it had turned rancid. So I left it in my hot garage for over a month. Mm-hmm. There's nothing wrong with it. I think I'm going to try to use it as a lube on some cases I resized just to see how it works for that. Because I can.
Jason, do you think the old cowboys actually used that exact recipe?
Sure.
Bacon grease and beeswax?
That would be something they could get a hold of easily.
I've heard of folks using bear grease.
Yes, I have too.
If you've ever tasted bear, you know that lube and bullets is about all it's probably good for.
Well, believe it or not, I've heard all my reloading life, that animal fat is actually considered to be a very good lubricant. Like for bullet sizing or swaging. Yeah,
now,
like lanolin. Pure lanolin is one of the best lubricants there is. I've used lanolin on 308 brass that's been fired M60 machine gun. Fully resized, right down, no problem at all. When I was using regular reloading lubricant, I was getting stuck cases like it was going out of style.
Yeah, that lanolin, that's all I use these days.
Pure
So
straight lanolin.
I went and bought some of the lanolin to mix with the heat and the isopropyl alcohol to make the lube with. Turns out I didn't order the liquid lanolin. I ordered the paste.
Yeah, you gotta order the pure liquid. Hey, Bacon, are you watching on YouTube right now? Because there's some guys in the chat trying to get your attention over there.
I'm kind of sort of seeing that, and I did notice there's a couple folks. Now, I had somebody get a hold of me earlier today, said they had trouble registering, something about their IP on the blacklist. I will take a look at that as soon as this live stream is done. That's 2 or 3 reports today, and I haven't really heard that much before, so I will definitely take care of that.
Yeah, that's something we can figure out later. Just wanted you to know that there's people trying to get your attention over there.
No, and I appreciate that. And my contact info is on the site as well. So if folks continue to have trouble, I'm not I'm not hard to get a hold of, either in Slack or my email address, and everything's on there.
So, Jim, how was Brontosaurus grease to use?
Jared, you're going to pay for what you just did.
Well,
Gave it away, you bum. You gave it away.
but you had the fresh stuff, right?
Yeah, he had the fresh stuff.
Yep. Didn't have to. All I had to do was render it down.
Yep. Oh. So, what's your, if you could do any one thing reloading related other than unloading the cartridges after, what's your favorite thing to do?
Oh. That's a broad enough, I think the favorite thing is experiment.
Okay.
Yeah.
Different bullets, different weights, trying to get them at different velocity. If I had to narrow it down, I'd say experiment with 44.
Okay. Do you have just a handgun, just a pistol, or do you have a rifle too for 44?
So I have a 6.5-inch barreled revolver. I've got a 3-inch barreled revolver. I've got a 2 3/4-inch barreled revolver.
Oh,
I've got a 2.5-inch barreled 44 special revolver. I've got a Rossi 92 with a 16-inch barrel.
Nice.
And I've got a New England Firearms handy rifle with several barrels, and one of them's 44. And that one I'm going to remount to 445 Super Mag.
I've got a question for you, Bacon. Do you like 44 caliber?
It's all right.
It'll do.
You're,
Right?
you're as bad as I am when it comes to 223. I've got four firearms chambered for it.
I'm on record as saying that a man can never own too many 44s, and I've never had anyone argue with that.
I wouldn't argue with it. Definitely would not argue.
When I conceal carry, it's almost always a 44 special revolver because I can.
Michael Bain says that's a real thumper.
Well, and being a reloader, it doesn't break the bank. I can't imagine not being a reloader and trying to shoot a bunch of 44 special.
Right? Not to mention when you actually start loading full house loads, that gets even more expensive. So.
Bacon, how do we get a hold of you to let you know that we can't sign up to Reloaders Network? I don't see where your email is.
If you go up to the authors tab up in the menu, you'll find loads of bacon there. There's a page with all the places you can find me. There's a contact form. Also, it's loads of bacon at thereloadersnetwork.com.
Okay.
That way I could remember it.
Makes it so much easier when you're just so. Oh, I see Leon's on here. So I talked quite a bit with Leon Guthrie on Facebook about shot shell and stuff, and he plays around with a lot of the different fun slugs that are out there.
Yeah, he's one of the guys that came on fairly recently, but that guy has a passion for the slugs, for shotguns.
Yes, he does. So,
that's one of the things I've always loved about this online community is just that the community aspect of it. There's some, like any community, we've got the village idiot running around, but by and large, they provide entertainment while we're having fun, but learning from each other, challenging each other. It's been a unique and awesome community. And the idea that YouTube could somehow break that down, that did not sit well with me. And so I figured they can harass us, but they can't make us go away.
Yep.
Yeah, Bacon, that's one of the big reasons I wanted to get you on, is because I feel the same way, that we're a community and we all need to be united, and we just need to continue our knowledge and have everybody share what they know with each other, and just be part of something.
I'll go along with the community aspect. Unfortunately, we're not big enough to really force YouTube into doing anything.
No, we're not.
I mean, all of us reloaders and so on and so forth, we are actually a minority among society.
Right, but the good thing is now, if something happened with YouTube and we couldn't even have our podcast on there, there's the Reloaders Network that has everybody. If you look at the list of guys on there, I mean, they're all some of the biggest, in my opinion, the biggest casters, reloading channels on YouTube, and it's an excellent source to just have that, where everybody can come together and share like-minded interests.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I've considered moving my stuff over to Vimeo.
Yeah, the problem is YouTube honestly is the biggest thing out there, and
Yep.
And like Vegas said, Full 30, that was the big thing for a while, but nothing has really caught on. There's YouTube, there's Full 30. It's still, I mean, we cut the cord, so we don't. The problem for me with the Reloaders Network is we watch everything on the Amazon Fire Stick, and I can't easily just jump over and watch the videos on the Reloaders Network. So I, like all of Bacon's videos, I watch them on YouTube, but he has to cut out all the stuff that YouTube might consider, inappropriate for them. And he posts the full length videos over on Reloaders Network. So I try to keep up on everything, but I have to get on the computer or something and watch the videos on Reloaders Network. But that's the problem, is YouTube is just the biggest thing, and it's got so much power behind it, and that's where everybody wants to go. And unfortunately, they don't like some of the things that we stand for.
Well, and the Reloaders Network, admittedly, it's not perfect. It doesn't meet every single need. YouTube is the number 2 website in the world.
What's the first one?
Their parent, Google. And I believe number 3 right now is Reddit, which is also not always friendly to firearms either. Yeah, the site works well in a lot of cases. I don't have an app. I don't have the resources to pay somebody to make an app specifically for certain things. And the fact that we're pulling in video from Vimeo and from Twitch and from YouTube and all these places, things like the set-top boxes, the Rokus and the Amazon sticks, I'm not going. I have hopes that someday we'll be able to work with those well, but I'm not going to make any promises about that.
Yeah.
But the content is there and it's easily accessible, just not from every device.
All right. That's the important thing, is it's there and it's available.
And we're at a point now where we've got the site's been up a little over 6 months now. We've got over 1,000 posts there, and we're looking at 1,500 to 2,000 page views a day right now, and it's slowly growing. So, people's habits and the sites they visit and the places they go, they don't change overnight. And YouTube didn't do a full scale chop everybody off all at one time. So, I'm okay with that, but I'm going to keep telling people this is where you can find me. This is where the future of online reloading content is. And that community continues to grow and grow. There's, we're probably approaching a couple thousand people that have registered there at the site now. So it's there, it's established, it's growing, and I know the guy that owns the place, and he's pretty pro firearm. So
So
yeah, and if
Oh, go ahead.
if you're looking to get to the site, it's thereloadersnetwork.com.
Very good. Thank you. That's simple enough. Thank you, Travis. Appreciate the help anyway. TheReloadersNetwork.com.
That's it.
It's good material for the podcast. So your favorite caliber to reload is 44. Is there a particular reason?
The very first caliber I reloaded was 357.
Right.
Jim's favorite.
That and 243. Had a 30-06. Bought the reloading stuff for it at the same time. Started loading it not long after. And when I first started reloading, it was primarily to hunt with. So reloading was fun, but it's not something I did as much as I do now. But at about the same time, I finally built myself a dedicated reloading bench. I had a neighbor that was selling his Smith and Wesson Model 29 6.5-inch barrel. I'm drooling over this thing. He had a 29-2 that had belonged to his, I think it was his grandfather, that had been stolen. So he bought a new one to replace it. Well, the police actually recovered his old one and brought it back to him. You never hear that happening, but it did. And so I got a pretty good deal on his, and he'd only fired maybe 2 cylinders through it. So now I had a 44 in hand. And then I found out my employer wanted me to move to Alaska.
You needed it.
And so I said, hey, I have a 44. I'm going to Alaska. I have young kids. I wonder, is 44 adequate for some of the large creatures up there? And as I started looking online to try to answer that question, I kept reading about hard cast bullets. And I'd heard of cast bullets, but never given them much thought. So that's when I started looking at what's this cast bullet thing. And many, many, many pounds of lead later, 98% of what I shoot in handguns is cast lead bullets.
I'll bet that you've never heard the name Elmer Keith, and I bet you've never heard of the Lyman Mold 429, 421, and I bet you've never heard of a 250 grain semi-wad cutter, right?
No. Well, the Lyman 429, 421 or the H&G 503.
Thank you. You got me. Good on you.
So I own the first 2 bullet molds I owned. One was a Lee for the 357, and the second was the Lyman 429, 421 in a 2 cavity. I ended up buying that then in a 4 cavity. And then I picked up a mold from a guy in Europe that cast pretty much the same bullet, but in a hollow point. And that's where my YouTube channel started. It had different pins, so different designs of hollow point with the same bullet. And I started wondering, well, different hollow point designs, different alloys, different velocities, what works better? So I picked up a couple blocks of ballistics, Joe, started casting some hollow points out of different alloys, and said, hey, if I'm interested, I bet somebody else is too. Let me throw this up on YouTube. And that's where the Loads of Bacon channel started.
Yeah, that's where I started watching you shooting ballistics, Joe.
Wow.
That testing's not done yet either, but now I expanded that test a little. So I've got some 38 357 bullets in that test. I've got the key semi-wide cutter turned into a hollow point in that test, and then I'm expanding that as well into some 9mm, and I've already done a little bit of testing with some 45 auto hollow points that I'm casting.
So Bacon, parchment paper or silicone mats?
Yes,
What are you talking about, Travis?
he is talking about what you put your cast bullets on when you put them into the toaster oven with powder coat on them.
Oh,
And you one of your videos actually changed completely the way that I bake my projectiles. I just want to know if you still do it. I think most of us started out with the Elvis ammo basket, and then I came across a video that you did where you actually took some 9mm trays from store-bought ammo and you started stacking them nose down in the plastic container, and then you put those in the toaster oven, to stand them on their bases. That's the only way I do mine now. And I'm just curious, do you still do that, or did you go back to putting them in a basket?
No, the basket method's never worked well for me. I still use the silicone mats. I tried some, what is it, the nonstick aluminum foil. That worked okay. But they seem to stick to it a little bit. But I would suggest either the silicone mat or the parchment paper. The parchment paper, you can use a time or two and then toss it. The silicone mat, it'll last probably forever. But I think they probably end up about the same.
I've never tried the silicone mats. Bacon, is it just me, or does Elvis Ammo seem to have the magic touch with casting and powder coating? Because everything he does, it turns out great.
It seems that way. Either that or he's a really slick video editor.
Yeah.
No, Elvis is a great guy, and he's not willing to, or he's not afraid of pushing the envelope too, which it's never boring, but it's always educational at the same time.
Yeah, honestly, if Elvis is out there, if you can hear me, please come back.
So I don't keep in constant contact with Elvis, but occasionally he and I chat, and it's probably been a couple of weeks, but I messaged him a couple of weeks just to see how he's doing, and he messaged me back. He was in the middle of a casting session. So he hadn't made a video in a while, but he is still casting and shooting.
That's great. I just watched one of his old videos of him filling up 55-gallon drums of lead wheel weights that he scored.
I
Jim,
hear that video referenced several times a month, and I think mostly in jealousy.
Yeah, Jim, you would appreciate this. Elvis has a video. He has 3 55-gallon drums filled to the top with wheel weights.
He also decided to take some of those zinc wheel weights and try casting with those, if you haven't seen that.
Oh, yeah, I've referenced that a couple times. He does some interesting stuff. Personally, I love casting. I can sit and watch casting videos all day because it's just so interesting to me.
I wonder what his molds are made from. The material, is it aluminum, iron, bronze, brass?
I've really only seen Elvis Ammo use Lee molds. Now you mentioned it, Jim.
To cast.
He's got a couple of molds that he picked up from, I think it was Arsenal. In fact, I think Arsenal has a couple in the inventory with his name on it.
Yeah, now you mentioned that, he does have a line of Elvis Ammo 70 something grains and some 55 grains. I picked one up.
Now he did destroy a Lee 420 pot with zinc. He had it cranked up pretty high, and then it turns out, I believe there's a chemical reaction with the zinc and the steel that's in the pot.
Wow.
Oh, really?
And it blew a hole right through the bottom, and zinc's pouring everywhere. So I'd suggest, if you're going to experiment with that, I'd go buy yourself a cheap cast iron pot and do it in there.
That would mean using a dipper.
Yeah. So Eagle Eye Shooting is another channel that has cast and experimented with zinc. And I believe Willie Bulletman has as well too. So now I know Eagle Eye Shooting was using some Lee molds, and I think eventually ended up destroying one or two. But they were the 2-cavity $20 type.
Yeah.
In fact, he even cast up some, I think he cast up some hollow points, which kind of surprised me. They opened up a little bit in gel.
Is it out of zinc?
They did. They were surprising. Yeah.
Zinc is so doggone hard you can't even mark it with a pair of side cutters.
Now, I would caution anybody thinking about zinc, if you do any sort of range scrap recovery, you're going to find yourself with issues. I'd go to somebody else's range to shoot that stuff.
Polluting my range with your damn zinc bullets, boy. What's wrong with you? Oh, that would be nasty.
You know, that's one of those things. I love that folks have proved that you can do it. So, you know, if California's ways ever take over the world, we have something non-lead we know we can use. But I won't be going exclusively zinc anytime soon, that's for sure.
Matthew Shinzig, if you're out there, please pay attention to this particular show. I know you're interested in it.
You know, I haven't tried it yet, but Rotometals has some non-lead bullet casting alloy that they sell too. It's pretty expensive.
Yeah.
But, I think it's mostly bismuth, if I remember right.
Very interesting.
No, so it's some old technology that is an endless topic which you can continually dive into and chase rabbit holes for as long as you want, both the casting and reloading.
Sounds like you might have a couple new groups soon. The problem is, go ahead, Judge Travis.
No, I was going to say, castings. I love casting, and I'm super interested. Jim just showed us a video that he was casting swage bullet cores, and I'm really hoping to talk with Jim some more about swaging bullets. Have you ever done any of that, Bacon?
I have not. It's funny you say that because 6 inches behind my microphone is a pile of 223 bullets that somebody swaged and sent to me. I haven't loaded them up yet. But,
What color are the jackets?
He made them out of 22 casings.
Yeah, that's the ones I'm interested. Jim posted some pictures, and his projectiles looked beautiful.
Well, thank you, Travis. Very kind of you to say so. I'm rather proud of him.
My guess is, having never shot them, and you know, that's one of those things that interests me, but I haven't gotten into yet or really studied yet. I'm guessing, without spending a ton of money on swaging stuff, you're probably not out of the box going to get sub-MOA groups, but you're probably going to get some great plinking ammo. That's just a guess. I don't know.
I would beg to differ with you. I have
Oh,
a friend.
outstanding.
I have a very good friend, and all these guys know who he is. He is shooting quarter MOA out of his 22-250.
Oh, outstanding.
Wow. Yeah, see, that's why the Reloaders Network and our podcast and all these are so important, because I'm super interested in bullet swaging, but without the knowledge of someone you personally know showing you what you need to get and how to do it, I mean, those arts are lost. So I can watch all the videos that I can find on it, but there's still, you know, a lot of stuff that I'm confused at what you need to do. So it's a big topic. I think it'd be great to have Jim go into detail on an episode about bullet swaging.
I'd have to actually set it up and then take my iPad and use it as a camera and do the show that way.
My entire YouTube channel, I've got, I don't know what it is, neighborhood of 200 videos now probably. I use an iPod Touch for my camera.
Isn't that, you said iPod, that's just a little dinky thing. Smaller than a cell phone, right?
The one I've got, it kind of looks like an iPhone, but thinner.
It's just a miniature iPad, correct?
Basically, yeah.
It fits in like a little, it'll fit in your shirt pocket, unlike a mini iPad.
Yeah, it's basically the size of a cell phone, but
Yeah.
maybe skinnier. Yeah.
But not a phone. And you use that for a camera. My God.
I
Same
do.
thing I do, or did when I was still doing YouTube content. I mean, my father's a videographer from back in the day, and what he pointed out to me when I was getting ready to try my hand at YouTube was, the onboard camera on these modern smartphones is plenty good enough to shoot really high quality HD video, as long as you don't try to get them to deal with like dynamic ranges and different focal lengths, stuff like that. But if you're talking about shooting static, go get the cheapest. I mean, go buy a used smartphone. Cameras.
Absolutely.
The only thing I would recommend, because it's what I did, is don't try to depend on the internal microphone, because you don't have to get anything of any great quality to really exceed what an internal microphone is capable of. But the camera's fine for it.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I'd buy even a $10 lapel mic.
That's actually exactly what I did. Hooked up a lapel mic to my iPhone 7 I had at the time, and that's what I did quite a bit of the YouTube work with.
I don't know how far off we're getting off topic of your
Way off topic.
reloading podcast.
Way off topic.
But yes, I can point out 2 channels I know they have a couple videos about bullet swaging, but only a couple. So I'll look forward to Jim's content.
You have to excuse me. I've been, I got distracted. We forgot about something important. We have a segment of the show we actually promised to do this every week, and we almost forgot it this week, called the Cartridge Corner, where we dedicate a few minutes to one particular cartridge, and we take requests and so on and so forth. And one of the cartridges that we had promised to discuss is, originally, I guess it's the 22 Varminter. I don't know how to say that. Or the 22 250, a Wildcat round that went legitimate. It was, Mike forgot to, Mike, you want to run the 1894? If it'll work. If it won't, well.
No, we're good.
Okay. Anyway, it was designed by a gentleman by the name of Captain Watkin. He took the cartridge to Winchester, but they shot it down. But then they turned around and used the same name 220 Swift on the Winchester 6mm Navy case, necked it down, shortened it to 2.20, and necked it down to 224. In other words, they stole his idea, but they used a different cartridge so that they got out of the copyright issues and called it the 220 Swift. Yeah. Anyway, we're talking about the 22 250. So anyway, it's neck down. So he created a round with something. Doesn't say yet. Oh, for the Watkin originally wanted to use the name 22 Varminter, but he copyrighted the name. But Phil Sharp and the Gunrunner got involved when these notes aren't. I don't know what the parent cartridge for the 22 250 is. Oh, it's hell. It's a 250 Savage cartridge. That's where it gets the name 250. And that is the apparent cartridge also for the 300 Savage, I think. Anyway, this particular episode of the Cartridge Corner isn't all that very good right now because I wasn't prepared. I worked until 4 o'clock today.
I sat next to a guy overlooking a little prairie dog town one time. I had a 243, but he had a 2250. That is a great round for varmints.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
for sure.
It'll reach out and touch and give you a sting.
Pop those things up on the ground, make them spin. That was fun.
Well, it'll actually vaporize a prairie dog. You hit it right, nose on, that sort of thing. Well, if the cartridge is capable of a 26-inch barrel, 55 grain bullets, the cartridge is capable of generating anywhere up to 3,800 feet per second. That's up there at that 4,000 feet per second barrier. And all you got to do is reduce the bullet weight down to 50 grains, and you're right at the mark, 4,000 feet per second. That's right up in 220 Swift territory. But anyway, the nice thing about the cartridge is you're shooting a near 30-06 capacity cartridge with very, very little recoil. The big problem, and it's also not like the 220 Swift. The Swift has got a name for being a barrel burner, a barrel throat burner. The 250 cartridge does not have that reputation for whatever reason. I think it's because a lot of the stuff is going on. It doesn't let a lot of unburned powder leave the chamber. But that's just me talking. That's I don't have any facts to base that on. Some of these recipes I found in here, they are enough to scare you bad. Here's one. The guy who wrote this article said he once saw a hand loader dip his 22-250 case in a case of IMR 4350, filling it right to the top of the case and then seating a bullet. That's not a recipe, guys. Well, it's a recipe for disaster. In other words, you can't get a consistent load like that. You know, we're always harping about carrying on about consistency and, you know, precision and doing things the same every time. You know, what Mike showed us a long time ago about using powder dippers. He had to teach himself how to actually get consistent, where you pour your powder into a cup and you run the dipper through it and scrape it off with a card, stuff like that, and learn to do it the same, where you get within. How close did you actually learn to do that, Mike? Dipping your powder dippers. On the air? Yeah, I'm on.
Mr. Iceland.
Because
Mike,
you can't compare velocity to you can't compare volume to weight. It doesn't work. If you're going off of volume, you measure off of volume. If you're measuring off of weight, you measure off of weight. But you can't measure off of volume and then try and weigh them out to get them the same, because it won't work that way.
well, what I'm getting at is how close did you actually get? I know you measured by weight your volumetric loads. I was just curious as to how close you got that.
Within literally a grain or two.
Okay.
So that was how I developed the 0.3 MOA 308 load. Well, 0.33. So
How was your
Within a
speed?
grain or a tenth of a grain? Sorry.
like
Jason.
literally, a kernel of powder.
Okay.
No
you
kidding.
said grain. I thought weight measurement grain, and I was wondering because that's a little kind of a large variance. Continue,
That's
guys. Sorry.
That's pretty rough. But Mike, if you got it down to a kernel of powder,
That's a little more accurate.
yeah.
Yeah.
Kernel of powder weighs about what? 1/10 of a tenth of a grain?
I can't get my scale to move when I drop a kernel on, so
Exactly.
do
Yeah.
with that what you will.
So,
Sorry, Jason. I didn't mean to cut you off.
Yeah, you did. You're just like that.
Jason, what did you
I
want to
get
say,
what I
buddy?
get. You old jerk.
Jason, excuse me. Phil, shut up. Behave yourself. Damn. Jason, what were you trying to say?
no,
Don't make me pull this car over, boy. Mike, how was your speeds on that when you were testing that?
didn't have a chrono at that time.
Okay.
So
You got one now, don't you?
yeah, but I don't have that rifle anymore, and I don't actually have any of that ammunition either. So
Do you have dippers?
Yep.
And you got a high-end chronograph? So I'm thinking
I'm gonna play around with 6.5 and see what we come up with.
So if I'm not mistaken, Jim, the Hodgdon H380 was considered the perfect powder for 22-250. In fact, I think That's where the 380 came from, was 38 grains of powder.
Okay. Travis, I'm not disagreeing with you. I've
Well,
never heard
I
this.
was looking for confirmation, Jim.
No, sorry, you're not going to get it from me because I've learned a long time ago. If I don't know something, I flat out do best if I say I don't know. So I don't know. Never heard this before.
Did you ever try whale oil for lubricating your bullets?
We already established it was Brontosaurus grease. And Jim used every part of that Brontosaurus. Let's just leave it at that.
Well, the cartridge corner just went to hell in a handbasket. And I tell you what, I apologize to everyone listening, including the podcast listeners. This particular episode, I just wasn't ready for it, and that's my fault. I'll give you one paragraph. The limitations of the 22-250 is barrel twist. As 63 grain, semi-pointed bullets are as heavy as you can go unless you get a faster twist barrel. Standard twist is 1 in 14, 1 in 12, or maybe even 1 in 10. If you're going to go better than that, you're going to have a rifle rebarreled or something like that. A barrel made with special twists and a chamber to fit your cartridge. So evidently this is an article that somebody copied and pasted. I think it was Mike from magazine. No, it wasn't from a Barrel Life. There is no such magazine that I know of. But anyway, his recipe was WW case, WLR primer, shoulder setback 1/1000 on resizing. He's using 40.1 grains of WW 760 with a 55 grain Hornady spire point. His velocity out of the 26-inch barrel was 3,800 feet per second. IMR 4320 gave it using 34.5 grains of IMR 4320, 55 grain Sierra Blitz King, 26-inch barrel, velocity 3650. And Travis, here's the recipe you're asking for. 42 grains of H380, 50 grain Hornady plastic tip. Somebody posted a velocity of 4,000 feet per second out of a 26-inch barrel. And the barrel life, okay, the guy was talking about prairie dog shooting. He might go through 200 to 500 rounds a day shooting prairie dogs. I can believe that. I've been prairie dog hunting. And hell, that day we were out there, we were fighting 30 mile an hour winds, and I still got off 75 rounds. And you can't shoot. Wind that high is just miserable to even be in. But anyway, so if at 200 to 500 rounds a day, most barrels only lasted this particular writer 2 years. Well, you stop and think. Good rifle, good accurate rifle, you might get 3,000 rounds out of it. Well, 500 rounds a day, that's only 6 days. That's not very good. But anyway, he only shoots rifles for hunting, and for sighting in. And he looks at the barrel as the cost of the hunt. So every couple of years, a $600, $800 cost isn't bad. Well, that's fine if you're going to spend that money for entertainment. But if you're going to, I could think of other calibers that would be more productive. Written by Paul Nelson. Paul Nelson. Sorry, Mr. Nelson. Thank you, Mike. Anyway, that's it for me. That's actually a review of somebody else that put up for us. And I thank you, Mr. Nelson, kindly.
There's more info in there, and that'll all be in the show notes. So
Very good.
So just, excuse me, just while I'm thinking about it, Bacon, so how we have our show notes, I'm assuming what we would do for the Reloaders Network is Mike would post our show notes and then a link to our video. Is that kind of how it would work?
Oh, that would work great. So one of the beauties of the Reloaders Network is you've got a lot more options than what you do with, for instance, with YouTube. You can post multiple videos within a post. You can post a video and pictures, or a whole host of things there. So, no, very easy.
Okay. Yeah, I think that'd be pretty nice for us to post a link to our video and then put our show notes up there so everybody can go and look at what we've got as our notes.
And then you also can include links to wherever folks can find and access the podcast as well.
Well, I thank you much for coming on. I appreciate it. And I thank you for spending all the time and effort to not only create the Reloaders Network, but all the fine content that you put out there.
I appreciate that. The beauty of having a site that with 60 some authors is I get to hang out with some. Basically, I made a table and invited all the cool kids to come play. So I get to sit at the cool kids table for the first time in my life. You know.
Well, we're among us. We're all outcasts, one way or the other.
So,
Yeah, you make the cool kids table for yourself, you do all right.
Well, and then I brought bacon, so everyone showed up for some reason.
Well, yeah. So I wanted to ask you, what's up with the name Loads of Bacon?
I don't think I have an abnormal obsession with bacon. I think it's just normal.
Because it sounds
But-
like your name should have been 44 Special or something.
Well, at work and other places, I had picked up the nickname. Well, I've picked up a few nicknames. The one I'll repeat here is Bacon. Apparently, I talk about and obsess about bacon more than the average man. I don't understand that. I think everyone should be just as obsessed with the meat candy. But as I was thinking about the YouTube channel and starting it up, I thought, well, I guess I need a name. And all of a sudden, Loads of Bacon just popped in my mind. And for folks that don't see it that way, you can read Loads of Bacon a couple directions. One, obviously, loads of bacon being, like a giant plate full of bacon. And two, I'm a reloader, and so it's my loads.
So tell me about your logo or your avatar, if you will. Cannonball with flames coming out the top.
So that comes from, if I remember right, a few weeks ago, I saw you had an Air Force Master Sergeant logo on your hat.
Yeah.
Well, I spent some time in the Air Force myself.
Oh, okay. EOD.
Well, we hung out with those guys, but the IQ wasn't quite that high, so we were the guys that painted the bombs.
Okay. I got it.
So I was an ammo troop in a previous life, and that was a symbol that, we didn't always speak in full sentences or write things that were appropriate, so they stuck us out in the bomb dump away from the main part of the base. And when we weren't painting bombs, that bomb symbol, there's a long history to that I won't get into, but basically we affectionately called it the flaming piss pot, and we painted it on everything. It was on doors and walls and the back of the guy sleeping on the back of his head. It was a symbol that particular symbol is older than our country is. It's an old ordnance symbol.
Yep. Well, I thank you, brother, for serving.
Oh, thank you as well. I was never Master Sergeant.
Yeah. Yeah, I forgot about wearing the hat during one of the shows.
If I remember it, that was right around Veterans Day.
I believe so.
Oh, no correlation there. Okay, sounds good.
So one of the things they're debating in the chat right now is old bullets versus new bullets and why everybody's pushing all the different bullet styles and stuff like that. And so they're debating one of the popular debates nowadays is 6.5 Creed versus 308 Win. And the main reason that a lot of people like 6.5 is it's a flatter shooting. less arc, so you're theoretically not lobbing it in like a artillery shell, as Phil said.
What do you want to do with it?
Exactly.
That's the thing.
Exactly.
What do you want to do with it? If you're going to try and hunt larger game animals with 6.5, not as effective as a 308 out to
Right.
even 500 yards. A 308's still carrying a lot more energy. So yeah, you have to compensate for the bullet drop, but it's predictable and it's been studied the heck out of. So, there's a lot of information out there to tell you. 6.5 isn't as studied, it's newer. But your bullet drop's different too. So
Yeah, but the point I was trying to make was that, yeah, you can use a holdover or you can use Kentucky windage or bullet drop compensator. You can, yes, it is very possible to take a 3-way Winchester and figure out your holdover for a given range. My point to the listener was, if you don't know your range, like target of opportunity, groundhog hunting, I'm prior service military, think like anti-personnel use. If you are not sure of your range, holdover is a guess at that point. And the less,
with any cartridge.
True. But the flatter shooting your cartridge, the more forgiving it is. Because the less drop you have over range gives you a greater margin of error. You know what I'm saying? Like if you're 100 yards off in your estimated range, but your cartridge shoots much flatter, you have a greater chance of it connecting with your target, versus if the drop is much greater, then it's a smaller margin of error. In other words, like in a perfect world with no wind, with an exact known range, with perfect ballistics, you can take a 45 ACP and shoot it 500-600 yards. But the world's not perfect. That was my point. Was if we're talking about why some cartridges, I guess, are more in favor now, flatter shooting is a virtue.
I have two things to say.
I'm sure you only have two things to say, Jim.
I've seen 45 ACP go out to 1,000. I've seen and been there with my eyeballs.
That's because you watched
ACP.
John Browning design the 45 ACP. You were sitting in the workshop with him.
It was 2013 with Tom McClellan, and we were shooting out there in the. We were shooting at the NRA Whittington Center on their high-power rifle range or high-power silhouette range, and he scored hits at 800 meters. I saw impacts at 1,000.
Mm-hmm.
Of 45 ACP. The second one I have to say, for firing for anti-personnel rounds, you range those by fire. For groundhogs, you want a good, clean, ethical shot. You want to be, if you're going to take the animal, do it cleanly. With personnel, it's not so important.
Okay, but in the application of shooting at groundhogs, why are small, very high velocity rounds tend to be in vogue when you're talking about varmint cartridges?
Less recoil.
That's not the only reason, though.
That is one of the major reasons.
That's not the only one, though.
We're
flatter shooting.
I'm not going to argue that.
Okay, but I guess
that's why we wanted
the argument.
Shooting at a hunting game, we want ethical shots, right?
Just like to be argumentative is all.
God, can you imagine what it'd be like if the two of us actually got together and shook hands? Oh.
I'd have you on the ground in an arm bar, and it'd be hilarious.
I'm laughing because I fully expect to see somebody with a cast zinc bullet and 6.5 Creedmoor on the Reloaders Network here in the next couple of months.
Actually, though, since Mike brought up 6.5 Creedmoor as it related to a hunting round, check out Ryan Kleckner's podcast from 10 or 15 episodes ago when he was in Africa. He actually went African plains shooting with 6.5 Creedmoor. And he had pretty impressive results, honestly. Better than I thought he'd do.
It depends on the range you're using it at, what your load is, and what your intent is. I'm saying inside 500 yards, that airsoft pistol, or air pistol, by the way. It was for a joke. So the joke is when Tom was making that 1,000-yard shot, did he have it at like about this angle there, Jim?
No,
Probably.
no. He actually just simply used these sights instead of holding a 6 o'clock bullseye, like we all know what I'm talking about. What he did was he held the notch of the rear sight level with the base of the front sight. He
Aha.
elevated that way.
That's pretty cool that he didn't have to do that much elevation. So, no, I was just saying that 308 up to at least 500 yards, and I know 500 because I've looked at comparable loads, carries much more energy than a 6.5 does.
Yeah.
I'm not saying 6.5 can't do the job. And depending on the distance and what you're shooting at, a 6.5 is perfectly capable. My point was when you get to that distance, the 308 has better energy. So,
Well, it stands to reason. You could buy factory ammo in the 6.5 and the 308. I don't know what the 6.5 with factory weight is, but I know for a fact you could buy 180 grain bullets for 308. Would I trust that out to 600 yards on a whitetail? Absolutely, if I'd done my part. Would I trust a 6.5 Creedmoor with maybe, what's the bullet weight out there? 150?
Typical is
140?
140 and less. I've seen, I think, 160, but that's really heavy for that caliber.
Okay, but the point, you guys have already seen my point. Mike is right. That bullet is that 180 grain bullet is bucking the wind better at 600 yards and is carrying a lot more energy to deliver to the target out there because of the fact there's simply more mass being pushed through the barrel. So Mike is right. Longer shots, really long shots for hunting purposes, the 308 would be more ethical.
Depending on what you're shooting at.
Heavy game. Personnel, that's a different story.
yeah, personnel is
But that's law enforcement and that's military circles. That's not for us to discuss on an open
We'll
show.
talk about that offline.
Exactly. Exactly. YouTube's going to shut us down one day.
yeah.
Anyway, of course, too, if you had a battleship handy, you could take it far all the way out to 28 and a half miles using a 2,000-pound slug.
But boy, the shoulder hurts after that.
Right?
Travis's eyes crossed when I said that.
You know,
I actually saw his eyes crossed.
Bacon, I know you haven't seen it. I can't remember if I showed these guys or not. Guys, when I went to see the USS Alabama, did I show you all the picture of my daughter trying to hug one of the shells from a deck gun?
Uh-uh.
She's
From a deck gun.
yes.
That's only 5-inch bore.
Oh no, main gun.
Oh,
Oh,
main
that's
gun?
main gun. I mean, that's
Yeah,
that's-
the shell was over a foot taller than she is, and she can only get her arms halfway around it.
that's
But
60
we were-
bore.
So
Yeah.
you're talking one of those guns that launches Volkswagens at the enemy.
Pretty much.
Mhm.
But yeah, we were walking along, and bear in mind she's been helping me out in the reloading room since she was 3, and we're walking along, and she's like, "Daddy, is that a bullet?" Because you can see it. It looks like a huge bullet. I mean, it's that tall, but it looks just like a rifle bullet. That's what it is. And I'm like, "Yeah, honey, that's a bullet." And you just see this look on her face of, and then she runs over to hug the thing. It was hilarious.
I've been in their ammo on the ammo magazine on the North Carolina, and those things are 5 foot tall. Standing on end, they're 5 foot tall.
Yeah, I actually got
We were
bored
talking 6.5 Creedmoor versus 308 in hunting situations. Don't forget too, just because you can get the bullet there, you get bullet construction, the velocity of the bullet at the time of impact, those sorts of things too.
Yep. There's a lot of technology already been established for 308 jackets.
When I was in the Air Force working ammo, my very first job, I worked with chaff flare and 20 mil supporting some fighters, and I was very entertained by the fact that the solid projectile for 20 mil was the practice round, but the real stuff was high explosive incendiary. Bullet construction matters.
Well said.
Yeah, definitely. Bullet construction makes a huge difference.
How does that saying go? Jackets matter.
Exactly.
Well, that's why you just harden up your lead and you either send it naked or paper patch it or polymer patch it, also known as powder coating.
Majority of my bullets are naked bullets.
That's really what powder coating is. We're polymer patching those bullets.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's funny you say that because last week on the 30, we were talking about the 3030 cartridge. That's where Mike and I discovered that metal jackets used to be called metal patches.
Huh. Yeah, I could see that.
Because we were talking about one of the first calibers ever designed for smokeless powder, coming out of the 1800s, where they were using either cotton patches or fabric or paper patches.
What did you prefer, Jim?
Whale blubber.
Oh, now bacon! You get started. I thought you were a man of the cloth.
I just I didn't realize they were making fun of you. I thought we were just stating facts here.
Oh, you're gonna get some of it too, man.
Wasn't that you they were saying was a crossing guard at the crossing of the Red Sea?
Oh, you're already popular among the crowd. You're number one with me.
He's the one that taught Moses how to part the waters.
Stop.
Oh.
Nope. You stop. You go.
Good one, Bacon. Good one. You're still laughing, you shit ass.
So here's a bit of interesting trivia for you. Comparing a 150 grain, they call it the American Whitetail. So it's an interlock spire point, to a 143 grain ELDX Precision Hunter. So it's closest I could find in weight. It's not really comparison as far as cartridge quality, but as far as weight to weight, the Creedmoor, you're looking at a 22-inch drop at 400 yards, and the 308, you're looking at a 25.2-inch drop at 400 yards.
3 inches.
500 yards, it's 8 inches. At 300 yards, this is both with a 200-yard zero. At 300 yards, you're looking at a 7.9 for the Creedmoor and an 8.5 for the 308.
That's less than a half inch.
Mm-hmm. That's similar weight. Now, if we actually step up and get a comparable, cartridge loading. So let's see here. They have a Precision Hunter in the 308. Okay, so we'll go. The first Precision Hunter they have is 178 grain ELDX. So same style bullet. When we start looking at comparisons, another 200-yard zero. You're talking about the same. 8.9 for the 308 at 325.5 at 400, and actually the 178 grain actually has a lower drop at 500 than the 150 did. At 500 yards, it's got a 50.9 instead of the 55 for the 150 grain, and it's got a lot more energy.
All right, and 50.9 for the 178 grain ELDX. And now, what does the Creedmoor have at the same range?
44.4 for the 140.
That's a difference of 6 to 7 inches.
Yep.
You know, I think somebody's kind of off the mark. It's pretty hard to beat that 308.
But you're talking 500 yards.
Yeah.
After that is where the Creedmoor starts to shine.
Okay.
So, to be fair, but you know they're not going to publish data, especially for a hunting load for farther than 500 yards. But I just wanted to give everybody a comparison out to 500. So, but yeah, you know, out to 500, I would take the 308. I'm not planning on hunting anything beyond 500 with anything less than a 300 Win Mag. So at that point in time, that's a whole different conversation. But if I'm target shooting, if I'm shooting paper, 6.5. If I'm actually hunting, I'll take the 308.
If I buy a Magnum caliber, it'll be a 7 rum.
I hear that's a fabulous caliber. I guess that means I should buy one since I have these.
No, not Remington Magnum. I said Remington Ultra Magnum.
You're no fun. So,
Is there
I don't know if I'd want
powder
an
cakes with a bullet sticking out the top?
Say again.
So
Please.
is that one of those powder kegs with a bullet sticking out the top?
Yes.
Hmm. Yep. That's where you get about 30 rounds out of 1 pound.
Oh.
I'd still try to load it at some point with Unique.
And a cast bullet.
Oh, of course. I'll put Unique in just about anything.
I don't blame you.
I put Unique in some 35 Remington loads under a 158 grain semi-wad cutter of a Thompson Center Contender.
I've got some 30-06 right now loaded up with some 190 grain cast bullets to test out with 2400 and Unique, and then a couple more traditional rifle powders.
Mm-hmm. I remember doing that with Unique with my 30 caliber. I have 180 grain bullets. I honestly don't remember what the velocity was. I wasn't really interested. I just was doing it to say I'd done it. Well, one of the things I really liked about that was the fact that I didn't get any leading in my barrel. In fact, my barrel was probably cleaner after I fired it than it was before.
That's amazing.
That's
What I mean
something I
by-
found with powder coating is that window, it grows even more of what I can do without getting leading.
These were cast bullets that I'd run through my Lee lubricator sizer dye, and then put a second coating of the Lee liquid Alox bullet lubricant on them. When I say fired, the barrel was cleaner, I meant after I cleaned the rifle, of course, but clean compared to what I get from the unburned powder residue from the 308 and jacketed bullets. That's what I really was talking about.
Aha. All right, folks. Well, I think we're going to wrap this one up. I'm not putting a bow on it, though, because that requires tying, and I don't feel like tying at this point. So maybe Travis will
Christmas
put a
is
bow on it.
coming.
Yeah, Travis likes putting bows on things, I hear. That too, Travis?
I have no idea what you're referring to, Mike.
It's not what I heard.
Oh,
Hey, I do want to give a shout out to Aaron. You know who you are. he's a listener. He actually got a hold of me and he purchased my Mech 9000 shot shell reloader. And after he purchased that, I realized that that actual Mech 9000 had that air assist that we keep referring to, Mike.
Yeah. So did you ever use the air assist or?
Well, as part of the press, yeah, I mean, it does. It actually really smooths out the rotation.
Okay.
And I actually never thought about it until I was tearing it down and actually saw the little air ram on the back. So
Aha.
it really does smooth out the rotation from station to station.
Yeah.
But anyway,
All right. So everybody make sure you head over to reloadersnetwork.com. Check it out. Lots of awesome content. You know, and like we said, there, if you go to the authors, then you've got the contact for Loads of Bacon. If you have any problems, shoot him a message. He's very good at getting back to you. So
reloadersnetwork.com.
I appreciate that. And appreciate you guys, what you guys are doing. We have again, I love this community. The viewers, the interaction, the content creators we have, helping each other out, throwing stuff out there that not only that we've tried that works great, but the stuff that we failed at as well. We're continually blown away by the people in this community.
and just in case people are interested, you call it an authors chat every once in a while where you get a bunch of guys from the network together and you just kind of talk about reloading.
I do. That's typically the third Saturday of each month, and really, that's just it's kind of to expose some of the authors from the Reloaders Network to the viewers. The topics have ranged all over the place. The people involved have ranged all over the place. It's pure chaos. We try to break the internet.
sweet.
Good luck with that.
We've come close.
It's always fun trying to break the internet. So, all right, folks. You know, sorry, I made a mistake in looking at the chat. So, and they're having some fun in there. It's a great time. They all have a blast in the chat and add to the show. I don't ever think it's really a detraction. So always good information, good feedback. Plus, you know, it's fun giving each other crap. So just want to take time to thank everybody who sends us emails or texts. Email is reloadingpodcast@gmail.com. Text or voicemail 608-467-0308. I want to take time to thank everybody who swings by firearmsradio.tv and hits up the Amazon and Brownells affiliate links. They help the network. Mark, of course, you should be an expert in that. So, of course, do you have any mirrors in your house? I'm just wondering, Mark. Anybody who's paying attention to the chat will know what that's comments about. No door prizes. Sorry. You try next week. Dang it. Oh, crikey. Just trying to get through the outro. Come on, people. Anyway. Also want to take time to thank all of our Patreons. They help us bring this show to you every week. They help us do all sorts of fun stuff. And just want to take time to thank everybody who tunes in every week. I also want to thank Loads of Bacon for stopping by, and you're welcome back anytime. And
I'll be in touch, Bacon.
Perfect.
And just I want to take time to thank Travis and Phil and Jason and I guess Jim. No, I'm serious. I want to thank Jim too. You guys take time out of your week every time to stop by and hang out and share your information and knowledge, and it's just an awesome thing. So, and I love just hanging out with you every week. So, And on that note,
Couldn't have timed that any better.
Perfect timing.
Mark, you need to leave that in. You need to leave
Yes.
the one in.
Look, don't touch that one. Leave it.
Oh,
Sorry.
Go ahead, Mike. Go ahead, Mike. Throw it out there.
Hey, let me say, Mike, you had your kid chasing a dog in 2 episodes ago, so
yep,
we're all entitled to 1 or 2.
exactly.
I got
At
ringing
least it
phones
wasn't-
in my show.
At least it wasn't the dog whining. So
Oh, geez, that was a nightmare.
Mike, personally, though, I appreciate you because you do so much for the show, and without you and Jim, it's a real shit show. So
The show wouldn't exist without
the
Mike.
show would not exist.
well, thank you.
without Mike.
I do it because I love it. So I don't know. All right, folks.
Well,
On
wait
that
first. First, does Bacon have an outro?
note- Oh yeah, Bacon.
And
Would
if
you like
not,
to throw me
you
a
better-
tag tonight?
Yeah, you better think of one real quick.
Oh, I've always got one. Everything
And-
is better with bacon.
And don't shoot. Okay, I was gonna say don't choose. Take someone shooting because that's already been used about 10 times.
No, I say everything is better with bacon.
Perfect.
Yes, it is.
That's a good lead in.
And while you're eating that bacon, keep
including
your breath
bullet
shiny.
lube.
Keep your powder dry.
It's not a matter of if, but when.
Buy it cheap and stack it deep.
And remember, squeeze, don't yank that bacon.
This show went off the rails an hour ago.
Good night, everyone. Thanks.
No, I had to do that. I had to do that.